Hi, creatives. Hope you are doing well and you're staying safe wherever you are and healthy. So, this episode is going to be a little different because a lot's been going on. Many of you have heard what's been going on here in Los Angeles with the fires, and it's made things a little bit chaotic, unsettling, displaced here for me. So I really don't have a specific topic or a theme, an outline, or a script for this episode. I just thought it would be important for me to get this episode out. So I'm going to kind of wing it this time. And I don't know if it's going to be short. I don't know how long it's going to be, but I did want to just do a quick update. So, the holidays happened and I was just taking it easy. I went out of town, and then when we got back a few days later, the fires happened here in Los Angeles, which is I don't know wherever you are in the world if you've heard of what's been going on here. It was a pretty unusual situation. So, of course, one of the big fires was very close to where we live, and we were evacuated. And that was very displacing because we were not allowed in. The power was out, and we didn't know how long we were going to be displaced and when we could return. And then, of course, the layers of being concerned about our house and all that. So, anyway, we're safe. Our house is intact, as you can tell. But coming back, I was quite surprised at how it was just starting to sink in. And mostly because we're considered the lucky ones here. And my heart is just broken for those who have lost their homes and for the devastation that has happened here. So, each day I'm just finding out people that I know have lost their homes, and and just remembering, oh, what about that place that we would go to, or it's no longer there, or so and so. I would look up their home on the map and find out their house was gone. So on top of, I'm sure a lot of you have seen on social media and Instagram of all the footage that's been uploaded about how devastating and this fire has been. And until you understand what's going on here, it's really hard to I can't. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around it. And how I don't know if this is really gonna tie into creativity. I'm sure it somehow it'll tie into creativity, or I will. But I'll talk a little bit about that later. The thing is that some people out, sort of distant from what's going on here, don't understand. This was a unique situation. Unique in the way that we have had winds, we have had fires here in California. We've coped with it. But the combination of fire and wind is really, I want to say, somewhat unusual because we have had winds before and fires, but it's always been contained, or handled. And of course, it's caused a lot of destruction in some parts of the state. But this was unusual in the fact that it got really close to urban areas to our city. So just to put it in perspective, Tuesday we had the winds and the two big fires started, Palisades and Eaton. We were close to Eaton. On top of that, there were 4 other fires that happened: Hollywood Hills, Creekside, Sylmar. There were multiple fires going on in other areas as well, all within LA County. This is unusual because it's always been somewhat in the mountains, and or places in the hills and stuff like that. And yes, we've had homes burned before, but not to this degree. And the best way I can describe it is it's a replay of Lahaina, Maui, but on a larger scale. Because there's no battling the winds. When there's winds this strong, and I believe it was around 80 to 100 miles gust, the planes, and the helicopters that drop water cannot fly in the sky. So they're grounded. We can't even utilize that as a way to put the fires out. So it's really working. The winds were really working against the firefighters, and it only ignited other fires in other areas. So anyway, I don't know why I'm going all into that, because it's just really important to understand that this is not a blame game. Yeah, there's some things that could have been changed, it could have been prepared for, whatever. But I really think what's important here is to understand and have compassion for what people have gone through in terms of losing their homes. I can't imagine what that was like for these people. Another thing too is I'm thinking about, this is areas that I drove through on a regular basis, and now it's like completely disaster, destroyed, and many people compare it to a war zone, and I understand that, because it's just hard to wrap your head around the fact that it was here yesterday and now it's not. Anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about what I've been through in terms of the aftermath, and it's hard to not be feeling it. And I think that might be coming right back into creativity. Many people who are creative beings, creative spirits, many creatives feel a lot. They're very empathetic, right? They're empaths. They take in sort of a collective energy, and they feel it very deeply. I'm one of those people. Now, being a therapist, trained therapist, I've learned to sort of navigate that part of me. I've learned to allow things to filter in and also filter out. I've also been able to manage that aspect of myself as a sensitive, creative, empath person. But it doesn't always help 100%. I still got to process what's going on. I still got to process what happened, and then because I also feel the deep grief and loss collectively, especially in our town, in our city. I went through this with Lahaina only because that was a little bit of a deeper grief too for me, because that place, Maui, used to be my home. I have a deep connection to that place. That was a tough one. So here again, I'm still experiencing that sort of collective grief and loss for those that I know personally who have lost their homes. Yeah, don't know really what to say about, the imagery too, in terms of. So how can I tie this into creativity? Well, number one, I know in situations like this, when it's challenging, a crisis, chaotic, anxiety provoking, when you're experiencing loss and grief and fear, I know for me, I still try to find something creative to do during these times, because it is I guess I can say it is the center that I can come back to and regain that groundedness. And, I even heard someone say about how being grounded is also a way to replant your roots into a resource that is constant. And that consistency is so important when you're feeling displaced. It's so important when something like this happens and you are experiencing a loss and, the things that your foundation has just been shaken up and now you feel unsettled. You need something to help you feel grounded again, or just give me a little sense of normalcy or stability, right? And that's what comes down for me, is that creativity is that constant. Creativity is that resource that I can come back to, not only to take a break from the overwhelming feelings that come with disasters like this and loss like this, but to tap into a constant that will not only calm sort of calm your nervous system down, especially like this, situations like this, is your nervous system is just amped up. I mean, you are on adrenaline, you are on sort of protection, fight and flight mode. And so your nervous system is kind of whacked out. So it's important to find a moment of, even if it's like a small sliver of peace, stillness, so that you can tap into that resource of being grounded, catching your breath in a sense, right? That's so important, because that's part of our survival, is catching our breath. And I think also, when we're always operating from that adrenaline and operating from that stress, fight and flight, we're not allowed to, it doesn't give us an opportunity to tap into our own wisdom and proactive thinking. Sometimes when we're running on that mode of adrenaline and sort of just trying to survive mode, we don't tap into a source of, okay, what do I need to do right now? What is the most proactive decisions that I need to make? This isn't just in a crisis like this, because what I'm reminded of during moments like this is that we can't protect ourselves from loss, crisis, stress, anxiety, or anything, uncertainty. We can't protect ourselves 100% from it. It's going to happen. And I think that what we can do is always have a sense of, what do I need to do to be resilient? And resilient isn't about, oh, I'm never going to be affected, I'm never going to feel this, I'm going to be, I'm going to plug through things, be strong. No, resilience is really about being able to say, I need a moment to just process what happened and take a breath, cry, be depressed, be sad, be angry, feel all the emotions, validate what has happened, find the people around you who can be there and say, man, this really sucks. This is, just affirming that for you, but finding a way to just like, okay, I've had a moment of stillness, had a moment of processing this, and what do I need now to make the decisions to take the next baby step forward, take the next baby step to recovering, take the next baby step to rebuilding, right? That is resilience. Resilience is being able to ride that wave up and down. Today I feel really sad. Today I'm okay. I can make decisions and be proactive and be in the doing mode. And then today I feel anxious again. That's the sort of ebb and flow of resilience in moments like this. So coming back to creativity, I found myself just after we were evacuated, I just grabbed a piece of watercolor paper and I started putting watercolor down, and then allowing myself to just have this sort of mindful meditation to get grounded, to calm down my system. And then I added a little bit of doodle to that. And then I, did a little bit of stitching. Just to be in the present moment so that I could, and I believe this isn't just about calming your nervous system down. This is about renourishing, replenishing the energy that you put out. Because like when you're evacuated, you are on high, I want to say high alert, because you have a short period of time to make these quick decisions on what do I need to take, what are priorities, what do I need to let go of. And it was such a blur, for me when I was thinking back, I'm like trying to figure out the timeline, because we started packing even before we got the warning, even before we got the mandatory evacuation. I just thought we just better start packing anyway. Let's not wait for the warning. It must have been 4 hours of packing. When I looked at the timestamp on our ring, took us 4 hours before we literally got in the cars and left. And your adrenaline is really up here. Your nervous system is amped up. And I know I needed to just get to a place of, I'm going to do something creative. And again, creativity for me is also a spiritual outlet. So it was a way to replenish and renourish whatever energy I needed to face now the next day. Now what needs to be done? How do I need to navigate being displaced? What do I need to do? What emails do I need to send out? That kind of stuff. So I guess my point is creativity is so important. And I know that it can, in situations like this, it's not like, well, this is the last thing I want to think about during this time is to be creative, do something creative, right? It's not about that. It's about creativity can actually replenish me, can actually help me to think more clearly, help me to process what's going on, help me to, sort of diffuse some of the overwhelm. To me, creativity does that. And I hope for you guys that you would see creativity as a priority in your life for this reason, that it is a tool for resilience in so many different ways. So that's one of the things, I guess, that I have to say comes out of how can I relate this back to creativity. That is what creativity is for me. I know it's always been, for me personally, a way to come back to myself. But, when you're in the midst of some crisis like that, like this, it is another resource. On top of other resources like having loved ones there, people that you care about, and people who really, that's another thing too. People came out of the woodwork for me to check in, and I am so appreciative of that. And for those of you who did check in with me on Instagram and Facebook and texted me, I have such an appreciation for, even though I haven't heard from you for years and years and years, but you just checked in. Or even if I didn't even know you personally, but you were on Facebook and you followed me and checked in, thank you. I am so grateful for that, because it really helped me to think about, wow, even though I don't hear from people, people are still thinking about me. And the same for me. The same for me is for those of you who have not heard from me, who have lost your homes, please know that I am thinking of you. So, that's probably going to be the episode for today. I don't, again, I guess a part of me wants to apologize. It was really hard for me to even think about doing an episode, but I had a few friends say, do an episode on what you're feeling and experiencing right now. And, I think that was a good idea. I think that's probably important because I'm human and I experience things, and it's good to share that with you because I think firsthand I can share this experience with you and also share how that connects to my own creativity, in hopes that you will also think about how creativity can be a resource of resilience, comfort. That's another thing I just thought of. Creativity is a comfort for me. It is a comfort. Like, because I haven't been able to focus on things lately, I just found myself making these little things. I'm probably I'm gonna show you. Just to give you an idea. I made these little things. I don't know if you can see them. Yeah. These are embroidery needle threaders. And I bought a bunch of them because that's what you do on Amazon. You get a bunch of them. They help you to put the little hook in the eye of the needle, and then you can put your embroidery floss in there and you can pull it out, right? And they were just made of these little metal things, and I thought, why don't I just wrap them? Because they're pretty sharp, so I'm going to just wrap them with interesting little pieces of yarn, string, embroidery floss, craft cord, whatever I had on hand. And for some strange reason, I allowed myself to get lost in that. It is probably the stupidest and simplest creative thing to do, but that is an example of that. It gave me comfort and it allowed me to just be present and still. So I just wanted to share that with you because I think that we put so much expectation on creativity. Well, in order for me to be creative, I have to get all my paints together. I got to know what I'm doing. I have to get my canvas in front of me. I have to have a chunk of time, like 5 hours, to just focus on my project. We build that in our head that it has to be a masterpiece that we work on in order to be considered, I'm doing something creative, and that isn't all of it. It's some of it, but it's not all of it. I believe creativity for me is here as a lifesaver. It's like throwing a lifesaver out into the ocean to just keep me coping with things, keep me sane. And if it's just doing the simplest thing like this, I love the fact that I can turn to that. Or doing the simplest thing as watercolor on a piece of watercolor paper. I am so grateful I have that to turn back to whenever I need to. So I guess my advice to all of you who are creative, and even to those of you who have an inkling that you're creative but haven't honored that creative part of you, do not underestimate the power, the value, and importance of what creativity can provide for you. It is not just about making art. It is a personal thing that you can rely on during the tough times and challenges in your life. So I think that's probably the theme that I want to talk about in this episode. So that's it for this episode. I want to thank you for listening to me ramble. I'm sure that when I get more settled back in, I can focus a little bit more on what the podcast will be about in the future. It's still January, and we still have a week or two to go. So thank you so much for listening to me ramble. Thank you so much for following me, my podcast, following me on YouTube. I appreciate it. I appreciate all my listeners, and I hope that you get something even out of this episode. So until next time, stay creative, stay safe, take care. Bye.